I'm Ryan Sawyer, 28 years old. During my time in college, a friend and I started a small gaming company, and now I'm the CEO of the company. Our cell phone app game became a major hit, and before we knew it, our company expanded exponentially. I often think to myself how fortunate I am to have found success doing something I love. In fact, I've been lucky since the day I was born. I was born into a relatively affluent family and raised with love by my parents. Whether it was academics or hobbies, my parents allowed me to pursue anything I took interest in to the fullest extent. I really don't think I can thank them enough. Hey, Ryan, you're free for the drinking party tonight, right? Just as I was about to shut down my computer after checking my accumulated emails, the door to my office opened. Popping his head in was Tom, my college buddy and the co-founder of our company. Tom is the vice president of our company. Our positions as CEO and vice president were actually decided over a game. So those positions don't really hold much power. Sure, I'll be there, I replied. When I responded, Tom playfully frowned and made a face as if he was not pleased. You know, I kinda wish you wouldn't come. You always end up stealing all the girls. It's an old joke that Tom always makes during our drinking parties. Apparently, I'm considered quite handsome. And coupled with my high academic qualifications, tall stature, and high income, it seems I tend to attract attention. Sometimes, the gazes of women at these parties make me feel a bit uncomfortable. Don't say that. You know very well that my work is my sweetheart. I don't have anyone I'd call a significant other. I occasionally have dinner and spend the night with a few individuals, that's all. Tom often warns me that one day I'll get hurt, but that's just how I choose to live. The notion of romantic love has long left me since high school. Grabbing my cell phone, I followed Tom out of the office. I wondered who I'd meet today. That thought made me a little excited. This gathering of young entrepreneurs is a regular event. Although it's difficult to attend every time, I make it a point to show up as often as I can. It's a great place for us to exchange information. Moreover, many people bring along cute girls, making it a venue for new encounters. Today too, there were cute girls such as the executive assistant of a major trading company's CEO and a PR girl from a famous clothing brand. While everyone is enjoying themselves, I can tell that the girls are sizing us guys up. It can't be helped, considering the circumstances, but it also feels as though this approach wastes the potential of these encounters. If we could let our guards down and speak honestly, maybe some amazing chemistry could happen. With that thought in mind, I spent the evening making small talk with the girls. The first round of the party was decently lively, and a momentum was building to head to the after party. I idly watched as the organizers debated in front of the restaurant on where to go next. Hey, Ryan, Tom, let's make a quiet exit. The one who whispered this to me was no other than Ethan, the CEO of a major apparel company. A bit older than us, Ethan was the leader-like figure among young entrepreneurs. Even from a guy's perspective, he's a cool guy and I look up to him. I wouldn't dare to turn down an invitation from such a person. Tom and I exchanged glances and quietly slipped out of the group. Just turn off your phones, it's less hassle, said Ethan, who was confidently walking ahead, as he looked back. It must be to avoid getting searched for. As long as we turn off our phones, no one can catch us. I felt a sense of temporary freedom. The bustling streets on Friday night were lively. We threaded through the crowd smoothly and found ourselves in front of a certain building. It was a building that housed a members-only upscale club. I had heard rumors, but it wasn't the kind of place novices like us could enter. Ethan, we're going in here. It's a members-only place. In front of the glossy black door stood a security guard in black, who deeply bowed when he noticed Ethan. Ethan, it seemed, was a member. That made sense to me. Ethan, being well informed, must be due to him frequently visiting such places and keeping his ears open to various stories. I got introduced to this place recently and became a member, he said. Apparently, you can get in if you're with a member, so Tom and I ventured into this unknown world. Inside, the lighting was cleverly dimmed, making the calm interior design look even more chic. Beautiful women were seated at each table, engaging in low, whisper-like conversations with the guests. Just a glance, and I could spot faces of known CEOs and owners. It felt like a social gathering of the elite, and I started to feel a bit tense. Ethan, who seemed used to all of this, casually introduced us to the beautiful hostess. The elegant hostess said, "I'm happy to see young people here," and welcomed us warmly. Honestly, I've never been to places with girls. I've never been to a strip club. We were guided to velvet sofas, and immediately a girl came and sat next to us. She handed out a business card with her nickname on it, and I hurriedly started searching for mine. The girl found my confusion amusing and let out a little laugh. Ethan seemed to have someone in mind, as he looked like he was waiting for her. His slightly anxious profile made him look like a boy. "Ethan, thank you for always coming." A girl elegantly sat next to Ethan, saying this as she approached. Her slim shoulders were revealed by a navy blue dress that suited her fair complexion well. "Nina, we've kept you waiting. I've brought along some juniors today," Ethan said, introducing us to Nina. Nina bowed her head to us with a cheerful smile. Of course, Nina would likely be her work name, but it suited her well. "Nice to meet you, I'm Nina." When she raised her face after saying that, I caught sight of Nina's face and almost let out a surprised, "Oh." The person standing before me was my high school friend, Lisa Thompson. She looked different, but I was sure it was her. "Wait, Lisa Thompson, right?" I tentatively asked. Nina responded with a grin, evading my question by saying, "Who knows? Perhaps it might be a nuisance to mention her real name here." So, I decided not to push any further. Nina is apparently a popular hostess at this club. Even after she joined us at our table, she was called to various others, busily moving around for greetings and send-offs. Despite the hectic environment, Nina never let her smile fade. She generously offered her beautiful smile to everyone. The woman in front of me was the exact opposite of the Lisa I knew. After all, I've only seen her smile once. The impressions were so far apart that perhaps I had the wrong person. By the time we were leaving, I had come to this conclusion. The high school library that smelled of old books. She, a library committee member, was always seated at the counter. Always expressionless, with a cold side profile. For some reason, I just can't forget her. In the end, I left the club without verifying the truth, being sent off with a broad smile. Ethan seems quite smitten with Nina, and on the way home, I was regaled with stories about her. "Ethan, would you mind inviting me the next time you go to the club?" At this, Ethan looked a bit surprised. He knows well that I usually don't frequent such places, so it must have been unexpected. But he quickly smiled and readily agreed. From the bottom of my heart, I wanted to keep visiting the club until at least I uncovered the true identity of Nina. That day, I was confused as Nina and Lisa kept appearing alternately until I fell asleep. Ethan was kind enough to keep his promise with me. Over the weekend, he contacted me and we decided to go back to the club together. On this day, Nina wasn't there when we arrived as she was accompanying a regular customer. Ethan immediately called over the madam, introduced me politely, and suggested that I should definitely become a member of the club. I didn't expect him to go that far, and I was deeply touched by Ethan's kindness. The madam also agreed to my membership, saying, "If it's Ethan's recommendation." In this unexpected situation, I gained a status at the club. I was torn about whether or not to tell Ethan the truth. While I was contemplating, Nina appeared with a regular customer. Nina, in a simple dress, reminded me of Lisa from our high school days. Nina quickly disappeared into the backstage for makeup and a costume change. I unconsciously followed her retreating figure with my eyes. Ethan seemed to notice it. "If Nina is your objective, give me a break. I can't win against you," Ethan jokingly said while laughing. But I noticed his eyes weren't laughing. He must be serious about Nina. "Don't be ridiculous. She's way out of my league," I replied with a laugh. Ethan muttered in a small voice, "I don't know." We chatted with the substitute girls while drinking until Nina was free. All the hostesses at this high-class club were amazing. Each one was a skilled conversationalist and had a variety of topics to talk about. There was no way they'd let us, the customers, get bored. Moreover, each of them had the beauty and style of a model. I was almost distracted. While I was chatting with the substitute girls, Ethan's phone rang. He was about to hang up, but his complexion changed slightly when he saw the caller's screen. "I need to take this outside," he said, and left the club. It must have been an important call. The problem was that I was left alone. This was only my second time visiting a place like this, and I was left feeling out of place, unsure of what to do. Ethan returned after about 5 minutes, but apparently some problem had occurred at his company. He said he had to return to the office immediately and left the club reluctantly. Just before leaving, he told me that he had paid for everything that day. Just as Ethan left, Nina came to my table. "Sorry for the wait. It's your second visit, right? Thank you so much," Nina said with a smile as she smoothly replaced my glass. Sure enough, I saw glimpses of the Lisa I knew. When the helper left the table and it was just Nina and me, I decided to ask her directly. "You're Lisa, right? The one who was on the library committee in high school?" Instantly, Nina's smile faded from her face. "It's a mixed blessing to have good intuition and a good memory, Ryan," she said. There was Lisa, the girl I knew so well. Even with her makeup done beautifully and dressed up in a dress, her cold side profile was the same as before. I felt a little relieved. "I wonder why I can't ask why," I said. The Lisa I knew was a top student in school. She was the kind of student who was expected to receive a scholarship for university. But according to Ethan, she had dropped out of high school and was working hard. "Please don't be interested in me. Don't interfere with my work because of your nostalgia. That's a meaningless emotion," Lisa said while avoiding my gaze. Then she raised her hand towards the waiter. "Please take him home. Thank you." Just like that, I was forced to leave the club by Lisa. Just before the elevator door closed, she smiled and said, "Don't ever come back," making me feel her rejection. That night, I had a nostalgic dream. Lisa was sitting at the counter in the high school library. "What are you reading?" At first, I spoke to her casually. I think it was just a greeting for me. Lisa glared at me with her eyes turned up. "Are you borrowing, or are you returning?" Lisa asked me, without any hint of a smile, in a business-like manner. It was the first time a girl I had approached had reacted so unsociably, and I was a little surprised. Looking back now, I think I was an annoying guy with an excessive self-confidence because I knew I was popular. I, who had no books to borrow or return, was at a loss for words. Then, as if she was disgusted, she sighed and dropped her eyes back to the book she had been reading. It felt like I was being ignored, and it annoyed me. "As a library committee member, don't you have any recommended books?" I persistently called out to her. Looking annoyed, Lisa looked up at me and placed an in-service sign on the counter. "What kind of book are you looking for?" She came out from behind the counter and asked me. I, who hadn't thought about anything, hastily repeated, "A book you recommend." Then she disappeared into the aisle of bookshelves. In less than 2 minutes, she had found a book. This is my recommendation. The book she handed me was a paperback titled Stories of Thoroughbreds. When I took the book she offered, she went back inside the counter. No facial expression during the lending process. I think I was just fixating on things like the whiteness of her nape when she looked down, or the line of her join profile. This is how my interactions with Lisa began. Even though she told me she didn't want to see me again, I can't help but be concerned about Lisa. I wonder why she became a hostess, why she dropped out of high school. If there's anything I can do to help her, no matter how small, I thought I'd like to be there for her. After some thought, I decided to call the madam and request to come in with Nina. Nina wouldn't be able to refuse if the request came from the madam. It may seem a bit sneaky, but it couldn't be helped. As I expected, I received a return call from Nina. "This is Nina. Thank you for coming with me." Hearing her obviously fake cheerful voice, I was taken aback. She decided the place and time for our meeting as if it was a business call, and then hung up the phone. From the beginning to the end of the call, Lisa had been Nina. I felt a bit down, thinking maybe I was just causing her trouble. But even while feeling down, I was excited to see Lisa, and my work for the day went by swiftly. I was amazed at my own raw emotions, but I couldn't suppress them because they were my honest feelings. When I spotted her waiting for me at our meeting place, I felt like I could burst into dance. I was purely, simply happy to see her. "Sorry, did I keep you waiting?" When I checked the time, it was 10 minutes earlier than our agreed meeting time. "No, I just got here," she responded with a radiant smile as Nina. The next moment, all expression vanished from Nina's face. Perhaps my confusion showed on my face. Nina gave a slight smile, lifting the corners of her mouth just a bit. "Do I need to keep up my business smile? It's not free, you know." She was sharp and sarcastic. The old Lisa was there. I felt more at ease with her now than with Nina's fake smile. When we entered the private room of the Vietnamese restaurant I had reserved, Lisa seemed a bit more relaxed. She didn't need to act like Nina when we were out of the public eye. Especially not in front of me. I was surprised to think we would meet again in a place like that. I started, to which Lisa responded, "It was an unfortunate coincidence. I started working for the money. It was the quickest way to make some," Lisa said, her face blank. She acted as if she was prepared for me to dig into her roots and ask questions today anyway. She shared what had happened since I had graduated high school. The fact is, Lisa and I had been in contact for less than a year. It was when I was a senior and Lisa was a freshman in high school. We hadn't been in touch since I graduated. Lisa's dropping out of high school was apparently due to her father's disappearance. He found a younger woman and abandoned his family, Lisa said bitterly. Her mother, who was brought up like a princess, had been married against her parents' wishes and was a woman completely incapable of living independently. Lisa was the one who supported the family, had lost the mainstay of the family, and could not rely on her grandparents' home. She had 3 younger brothers, it seems. In order to support her mother and 3 brothers still in compulsory education, she decided to drop out of high school and work. Initially, she held several part-time jobs. Her brothers also helped out with the household finances, doing things like delivering newspapers. Lisa said that her mother was too busy lamenting to be of any help. As soon as she turned 18 and could work in the nightlife work, Lisa jumped into this world. It started from a casual bar. Then she was headhunted by the madam of her current workplace. Have you got all your answers now? I was surprised too, to find out you've become a CEO, Lisa said, finishing her story and gulping down her ginger ale. I think I'm just too fortunate. I always feel insecure, not knowing how much of what I've achieved is actually due to my own abilities. Oddly enough, the anxiety that I hadn't been able to express to anyone fell out of my mouth. Lisa looked at me with a surprised expression. Sorry, forget it. It's just my ramblings. Embarrassed, I tried to play it off as a joke. Listening to complaints is also part of my job. It's not for free, though, Lisa said with a gentle smile, which I didn't think was her usual business smile. It was the smile of Lisa that I had seen only once during our school days. Then we chatted a little bit about the old days, I think. In reality, my head was so messed up that I don't remember what we talked about. But just before we entered the club, Lisa said something that stuck with me. Look, I'm not ashamed of who I am now. I just don't want people who knew me in the past to see me as I am now. I feel like that's disrespectful to the people at the club and to the customers, but I can't help feeling that way. Before I could say what, Lisa forcefully pushed open the door of the club. A subdued buzz, punctuated by quiet laughter, came from inside the club, accompanied by jazz music, the dimly lit floor, and the scent of expensive whiskey. As soon as Lisa stepped foot into the club from the door, she transformed into Nina. She looked at me with a full smile. Please wait for me at the club. I feel like drinking champagne tonight, she said charmingly before disappearing into the backstage. The bartender gave her a smile, saying she knows how to get what she wants. Yeah, I guess so. All I could do was return an embarrassed smile. It felt like everyone had some kind of inner contradiction that they couldn't fully come to terms with. It's been a few weeks since I started going out with Lisa. I've been wishing to visit the club often, but work has plunged into its peak season. Both my team and I have been pulling all-nighters. I'm in no shape to go out, devoid of energy and motivation. Finally, things settled down yesterday. Just as I was about to see Lisa after a long while, I got a call from Ethan. Man, I proposed to Nina yesterday. I haven't gotten a response yet. I don't have the courage to go to the club alone. Can you come with me today? I was surprised at his uncharacteristically timid voice, but I was also shocked by what he said. I never thought he would seriously consider being with Lisa. I've spent a lot on Nina. I don't think she'll refuse. Ethan said that. No doubt, there's no customer who has spent more on Nina than he has. But just because of that, I felt like he was taking Lisa for granted, thinking she couldn't refuse. I have something to tell you that I've been hiding. I thought I couldn't deceive Ethan any longer. Of course, I had no intention of deceiving him from the beginning. I just couldn't bring myself to say it. I have a bad feeling, but let's hear it. Ethan probably had a hunch. His voice tone dropped a bit as he said that. He probably invited me to the bar today as a countermeasure against me. Nina and I have known each other since high school, and she's the one I've always had feelings for. I don't want to interfere with your proposal, but please give me a chance to. I thought it was rude to say such a thing to a mentor I deeply respect. But there are moments in life when you can't back down. I've often heard Nina talk about you. I see, so that's what's going on. Ethan said calmly, showing no anger. And he said he would give me a chance. It's Nina's decision, who she chooses. If she chooses me, don't complain. I won't either. Thank you. Ethan, whom I respected, was fair and manly to a fault. He told me to go to the club first and confess my feelings to Nina, and I was on the verge of tears. We hung up after agreeing to meet at the club. Over the past few weeks, when I couldn't see Lisa, I've been preparing something and headed to the bar. The bar, just opened, was still sparsely populated, and when I asked for Nina, she came to the table right away. She seemed a bit thinner than the last time I saw her. "Long time no see, Ryan. I thought you'd forgotten about me," Nina, with a fake smile, said. I asked directly, "Are you going to accept Ethan's proposal?" The hand she was using to make the whiskey and soda stopped. I saw her fingertips trembling slightly. The sound of ice falling into a glass resounded in the silence. "Not a bad deal, you know. He's rich and kind. He only has eyes for me." While not looking my way, Nina proceeded to mix herself a whiskey and soda. "I've got money too, you know." I almost despised myself for the vulgarity of the words that came out of my mouth. At my words, the fake smile disappeared from her face. Nina looked at me, her eyes challenging. "I'm willing to pay whatever it takes. Marry me." She looked at me with contempt after I uttered the same phrase again. Then, slowly, she took off the ring from her right hand and placed it in front of me. An expensive-looking diamond ring. I remembered the boastful way Ethan had announced it was a gift from him. "I come with a high price tag, you know." Lisa's mouth twists into a self-deprecating line. I realized that I had hurt her. But I couldn't back down here either. I handed her what I had prepared. "I might not have as much money as Ethan, and we've only just reconnected, but I want you to look at me again. Just like before, I want you to recommend books to me and teach me about worlds I don't know." As she saw what I had handed her, her eyes widened. It was an information guide for the high school equivalency test, a pamphlet for distance learning, and a brochure for online universities. The last was a brochure for a course to become a librarian. She carefully placed each pamphlet on her lap, one by one. Her slender fingers traced over the covers of the pamphlets. "Maybe it's time for you to chase your own dreams. I want to see you achieve yours. If we're talking marriage, I think I'd be the better bargain." Back in high school, I once asked Lisa, who served on the library committee. In theory, the library counter duties were supposed to rotate among committee members. But whenever I went there, it was always Lisa sitting behind the counter. "I love this place, so I switch duties with other members. I want to be a librarian in the future, so consider this my practice," she said. I still remember when Lisa, who was usually expressionless, shyly shared her dream with me. "You still remember that? You're strange." While she uttered the words with some bitterness, Lisa's eyes were glossy with tears. "I don't know why, I couldn't forget. It's strange, even to me, but I've always liked you." I thought I could finally confess to her after over a decade. I had planned to confess to her on graduation day. But she wasn't in the library on the day of graduation. I couldn't meet her, so I remember leaving a small note on the library counter and leaving. "I'll tell you I love you when we meet again." The words I muttered were the ones I had left in the note for her. The fact that she remembered those words was more joyous than anything. I felt as if the stop clock had finally started moving. Years later, I stood in front of a large library. It was a chilly day, cold enough for snow, and I could feel the cold creeping up from my feet. The staff entrance opened, and light spilled out. "Sorry to keep you waiting. You must be cold." Lisa took both my hands, blowing warm breath on them. "I'm okay," I replied, holding her hands and tucking them into the pockets of my coat. "It's warm when we're like this." Lisa smiled shyly and nodded. The smile that was now directed at me wasn't for business. Feeling like the luckiest man in the world, having her priceless smile all to myself, I cherished this moment.